Hello and welcome to the Cannes Parallel Challenge 2024. My name is Arno.
And my name is Matt, and today we'll be paralleling Miguel Gomes's films Tabu and Grand Tour. Miguel Gomes is a Portuguese director who actually started his career as a critic and film theorist before moving behind the camera. But starting in 2000, Gomes made a series of short films before directing his first feature in 2004. Most notably, he has made the films Tabu, Arabian Nights, and The Sugwa Diaries, all of which are notable for the way in which they blend magical realism, elements of documentary, and social issues. And possibly more than any other director in competition at Cannes this year, Gomes is capital A art house filmmaker. But Grand Tour seems to be his most notable film yet, and potentially most accessible, as it is his first time competing in the Cannes competition.
Yes, accessible with a minuscule A.
Potentially the same way that we thought Memoria would be more accessible, and then it wasn't.
Tabu is a film that takes its title from the F.W. Murnau film from 1931, which is a film I didn't know about, but is certainly present in the DNA of this new Tabu.
The 1931 Tabu, it was also made by Robert Flaherty, who is also known for Nanook of the North, and his films kind of blended documentary and fiction and focused a lot on indigenous people. The films are now seen as a bit of an arm of colonialism, as they would exoticize these indigenous cultures in a way that made them very mystical for American audiences. So Miguel Gomes here is taking that film and reapplying it to an anti-colonial statement.
So the 2012 film starts with a prologue set in colonial Africa. After, we follow a middle-aged woman in Lisbon who worries about the health of her senior neighbor, Aurora. But then the second half of the film is an entire flashback of romantic recollections from the time Aurora owned land in colonial Mozambique and had an affair with another man. I think the first thing to discuss here has to be the form of the film. We start in black 4:3 Academy ratio 35mm film, and then we go to 16mm silent, but with sounds all around. The only thing we don't hear is the dialogue, even if characters' lips are moving, and it's a very strange effect.
Well, the film is quite clearly split into these two parts, with the first half being much more conventional in the way it presents its narrative, as we follow these older women in Lisbon recollecting on the past. But the second half is much more of a tone poem about colonialism. It's using the documentary footage because it was just Miguel Gomes traveling and recording what he saw and incorporating a narrative around that. A lot of this tone poem half is done in the style of Marguerite Duras, who did the films last year in Marienbad, Hiroshima Mon Amour, and India Song. Personally, at least compared to India Song, which also talks about colonialism, I think that this is much stronger.
I realize it's only the second half where we have this narrative framing device, but I feel like I hadn't really seen it done in this way in a film before, and I was very, very seduced by that proposition. The film has an excellent soundtrack throughout, and I think in the second half, one of the only moments you actually hear diegetic dialogue would be during the songs, and notably foreign retakes of Be My Baby. And I think those moments really, really strike a chord when they happen in the film. I also saw an interview with Gomes where he was asked about the symbolism of the crocodiles, and there are crocodiles, especially in the second half of the film, and his answer was, "A crocodile is a crocodile, and I like them."
I like that a lot. You can definitely find and ascribe meaning to anything, but sometimes directors make choices based on instinct. And still, as film viewers, it's fun to find meaning in these things. So the crocodile can mean whatever you want it to mean. Doesn't mean that Gomes intended it that way. And I kind of like that approach to filmmaking, going on instinct. That said, I personally wish that the film had a little bit more teeth in its criticism of colonialism. It sort of just nudges at those horrors, but at its core, it's still primarily a love story about imperialists in Mozambique. Some of the weight of the themes, especially near the end of the film, as it starts to talk about the horrors that they subjected people to, it doesn't feel like it has the weight that it should.
That's fair, although I don't think that the film's focus is to critique colonialism. And I think the film is still equally powerful in the way that it shows anarchic freedom within the colonies, where you have this character who goes to Africa in order order to escape whatever past he had in Portugal. And because he's a white colonizer, he's given a job and opportunities really quickly, and he's given an incredible romantic adventure. And it's not until the very end where we start to see some of the consequences of colonialism take the forefront, and where we actually see African characters much more so in the forefront. And I think that's by design. I think this film doesn't set out to be a critique of colonialism. I found this to be just a pure aesthetic pleasure of a film. And as the scenes went on, I was like, I'm so happy I am seeing this right now. This feels new, this feels exciting. It's not always perfect, but I am seeing something really deeply original that is making me think about cinema in new ways.
This year, Miguel Gomes goes to the Cannes competition for the first time with his film Grand Tour. And similarly to Tabu, this is also a film about colonialism from Portugal. It is set in 1917 Burma, and it follows a man who runs off on his wedding day, traveling from place to place in Asia, a grand tour, if you will. And his wife-to-be follows him from place to place. This is a mixture of documentary footage captured in 2019 through 2022, with a lot of footage being directed via Zoom during COVID. And in 2023, they looked at the documentary footage and Miguel Gomes wrote narrative scenes around it. And then they filmed those narrative sequences to add to the documentary work, which is a very unusual writing shooting style, but it's something that is a very interesting proposition cinematically.
I'm very, very excited to see this film, and I'm excited to see why Miguel Gomes was upgraded to competition. And I think this could be his style and his cinematic ambition given a larger stage, the same way that Albert Serra was given a larger stage with Pacifiction, a film that, despite how radical it was, just how incredibly cinematically original it was too divisive and won nothing, just like this one will, in my opinion. In the next episode, we get tropical with Brazilian director Karim Ainuz's Futuro Beach and his new erotic thriller Motel Destino.
Come learn about one of the steamiest directors working today.